Good morning, everybody. Dobre Utra. Aaron Feenstra here from Countryside Corner, also Countryside Acres. If you're not familiar, we have two channels running. You can check them both out. There should be a link down here for both. The one is about our family vlog and things that we do, and this channel is more about interviews, interviewing people who have recently moved to this country or answering questions from you, our viewers. Today we have another interview with another expat who has arrived and is enjoying Russia so far. At least I hope so. We're going to interview Eric and see what he has to say.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Countryside Corner. Here we're all about faith, family, and freedom. Brought to you from no other than Mother Russia.
You reached out to me via email, I think, right?
Originally, no, I think I posted on your YouTube channel a couple weeks ago and was just, I was wanting to wait until I was actually here to set something up. But yeah, I reached out on YouTube and then followed up via email. And then here we are.
Awesome. Okay, well, for all of our viewers and for me too, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, all that stuff.
My name is Eric Piccione. I am or was born and raised out in Houston, and I've got a little bit of sports background. I played college football or American football rather, and I went to school in Louisiana, which is where I met my at the time girlfriend. I started dating her like 4 days in. There was just a different mentality. I was not used to that. So got married shortly after and ended up moving back to Houston to work. Had our first kid pretty young. So we've got a 2-year-old daughter now, and made the move out to Yaroslavl, Russia very recently, which is where we now call home.
Okay. And your wife is Russian?
Yeah. She was born and raised in Yaroslavl, and her family's out here, and she went to school in Louisiana, of all states, for sports. She played tennis. So she was a tennis player, and we met through one of the sports meetings. They have your annual don't do performance enhancing drugs, all that yada yada. And we had gotten contact through a mutual friend. Just naturally, we started dating and got married and have kids, and the whole American dream, if you will.
It's awesome. Yeah, that's kind of how it should be. It's interesting. So Yaroslav, so her family's from here, so it's natural that you had a connection here, I guess. You had visited here before, or not so much?
I had. So it was a bit of a spontaneous visit where she had, again, just a sort of a general comment like, hey, if you ever plan on coming to Russia, we would love to host you. And I think that night or the next night I had booked tickets to go. So it was a pretty quick turnaround. I'm one of those guys that if I like something and I decide that it's a good idea, then I'll do it and, figure it out along the way. And I was not even 6 months in. So now looking back, it was pretty goofy to make a decision so quickly, but I didn't realize the culture over there is usually you meet your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your kids' friends or relationship partners after a couple years of knowing them. It's not like you meet them 6 months into a relationship. That's pretty different. So to me, I was like, I had known her long enough. It made sense. So ended up booking tickets, met them for the first time 6 months into the relationship. And I've been 5 times since then. And every single time I come, it is just such a welcoming environment. And I love coming here, and it just made sense naturally that maybe this could be a place to call home. And that was a decision that had slowly been brewing over the past couple of years, was like, what if we did this? What if we actually made the move over here? And we just started looking into it more, and it just made sense.
Was there any religious sides to it, or any worries from America that made you think more strongly about moving here, or just because her family's here?
I mean, the family was definitely a big part of it. For us, it was never something that it didn't feel like families were really, America wants families, they say, but there's not really systems in place to support that decision. Like when we had our first child, it was, I mean, 15 or 20K all in medical expenses. And there's like no assistance to like keep the family like for checkups. It's kind of a joke. I feel that you're spending so much money and you're not really getting a lot back in return. So for us, family was definitely one of the biggest reasons, just like the ability to raise a child as well. But a lot of it comes into the fact that the West is, for us, pushing beliefs that I can't say I can get behind. And I definitely don't like that they're forcing it on my kids. Like, it's one thing, I'm very open-minded. I'm perfectly fine with a handful of, I have plenty of friends that have beliefs different than my own, and that's fine. But I don't think it's right to push beliefs on a kid that doesn't know any better, you know, especially at such a young age when they don't, the only thing they know is what they're told.
Yeah. Either way, I think any beliefs, even my beliefs as a Christian, I don't think if I went to your house and forced those on your kids, even though I believe my beliefs are appropriate, I don't think it's appropriate to force them on your kid. That's your job to train your kid, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting. So how long you've been here now? For a couple of months?
So I've been here, I mean, if you add it all together, definitely a handful of months, but this exact trip is now like the permanent one. So I've been here a month, but I mean, I've been in talks of doing this for so long. It feels like it's been much longer, but a month officially. And I mean, we're going to be here for the long haul. We're going back to the States in the next couple weeks just to like move out all of our remaining stuff, because we can only take so much in some suitcases. But we've got a house in Cincinnati that will get some stuff knocked out. But yeah, we're gonna be making the long haul decision pretty soon. But yeah, I mean, we're planning on being here indefinitely.
So I could go multiple directions with this then, I guess, because there's a lot of people considering the move. Are you taking all your stuff in a container, or are you just selling everything like we did and just taking suitcases? Or do you have a lot of stuff? I guess I don't know. I don't even know what you have.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we used to live in Houston, and when we made the move to Cincinnati, we realized how much just tiny knickknacks that we had, and we have over the years just started to downsize as much as possible. I wouldn't really consider us minimalists, but we don't take a lot of stuff. So the trip coming here, we brought almost all of our stuff already. So this next one, to just get the rest of the stuff out, will just be more of a formality. Yeah, but we might consider sending some stuff to my family in Texas. But we have on the property with Cincinnati, we're not going to go all out and sell the house. Like, we are going to try to list it on Airbnb to see how it does. And if it works, great. If not, you know, no problem. But we have a garage space that we'll likely have a handful of our stuff in. So, you know, we have a little bit more space, but I don't even know what we would really even put in there, because we're going to bring pictures and like memorabilia, maybe some clothes, but almost everything will come with us on this next trip anyway.
Okay. So you're not completely cutting ties yet then either. You'll still, well, obviously you have family and stuff there anyway, but you'll still have some stuff there a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, we'll have the house in Cincinnati, but I mean, worst case scenario, if it's too much of a pain to deal with, like, we have a company that will handle the business for us. But if it just becomes too much of a headache, we'll just say, to heck with it. We'll just sell it and
sell it off.
Yeah. And just come clean.
Are you concerned at all between, you know, the tensions between Russia and the USA right now, that having kind of a foot in both areas could cause a problem for you at all?
Not so much. I mean, I don't really have I figured as much. There's going to be people on both sides that are upset with one decision or the other. I find it that as long as we're doing what we believe to be best for our family and what makes sense. I mean, it's not like we're coming back every month or so. I mean, we have people that will come see in America. It's just long term. Like, we're going to be living in Russia, but we'll come back for holidays and what have you. So it's not like we're just, you know, cutting it both ways. But, you know, no matter what I say, people will be mad at some decision in some point. So whatever. I figured as much, like, that people don't know what they don't know. So, you know, I feel like it's our responsibility as YouTubers or independent media, whatever you want to call it, to shed a little bit of light on how it actually is, and then the people can decide for themselves if they like it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're hoping to do too. And I think a lot of people's eyes do get open just from stuff like this. That's why I ask these questions as well, because a lot of people have no idea. We didn't know at one point either. We were back over there thinking this was an evil country, and the longer I'm here, the more I love it. So yeah, it's good. So a lot of our viewers would be familiar with Father Joseph Gleason. He's also in Yaroslavl. We already covered this, I guess, but I thought I'd ask, is that any reason of why you went there? Do you even know who he is?
So you had mentioned it earlier, and I hadn't even.
I think he's from Texas too. Is it? I believe he is anyway.
So I looked him up a little bit, but I hadn't. That wasn't a part of the decision. But I mean, by all means, I'm very open and receptive to meeting people out in this area, especially ones that have had similar mindsets. But I mean, I'm more than happy to meet him and get to know his thought process and learn a little bit more from him. But no, I didn't know who Father Gleason was until you had mentioned it. So I mean, that's the fun part. There's so many people out here. I met someone the other day that's from America that goes to school out here for similar reasons as us, and you don't know until you get connected in the community.
That's right. Yeah. Well, there's quite a few here, and there's more coming all the time. There's we've been hanging out with some Australians here that are looking in the area right now. They haven't moved yet, but they're planning on moving here as well. And then, of course, there's the Australians in Altai. So what did your family back home think of the move?
I mean, it was about as well received as you would think. It was a big shock at first, like, our bear's going to come attack you and no, just kidding. But there was there was a lot of I don't want to call it skepticism, but it was a something that they probably didn't think of. But I had been sort of planting the seeds over the years, just giving them an idea, like, I really enjoy it there. I'm very well received. You know, her family is very welcoming. Like, I enjoy the culture. I like the experiences of being there. So I think it wasn't all of a sudden like, hey, I'm just packing up and going. It was sort of over the months and years, it was like, hey, this might be a possibility. And it just became more and more realistic. But at any point, if I say, hey, I'm going to Russia, it's like opposite side of the world. They've never been.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can only get so much of a reaction, but over time, you know, once they get a little bit more context in our reasoning, they're on board with it, as long as it's something that I decide, and as long as it makes me happy, then they're happy with it.
No, that's good. The fact that you're married to a Russian, obviously they've met her, they would it might help change the perception a little bit too from what they've been taught as children or whatever, right? Or from the media. Might help then.
Yeah. And her parents, they came into town for our wedding, and that was the first time that they met. And they had a blast. So I think they got a general sense of how the Russian people are, knowing that I'm in a relationship or a marriage with a really good family. Then you know, it makes things a little easier versus me just saying, you know, I'm just going to go digital nomad, solo travel lifestyle and just hope that it works out. It's a lot harder to make that move unless it's, and at least in my case, that I have such a blessing of an opportunity where I've got family already there. It made the move a lot more simple.
Right. Yep. Makes sense. Yeah. For us, it was totally unknown. We did a lot of research, of course. We were looking into it for 1.5 to 2 years, and we had a lot of connections, but not in this immediate area. There was no one that we knew here. And I don't know, hindsight, if I would do it exactly the same or not, I'm not sure. It's had its challenges, of course, but it's also nice to go out on your own. So, I mean, we're this far now. I wouldn't change anything, but the first little while was difficult for sure. Yeah, everything's new, right? So, yeah.
I was gonna say kudos to you guys. That is impressive. I was thinking if I would have done it, how I could have done it back in the day. I mean, that's kudos. That's impressive.
Yeah, not everybody can do it, I guess. We have always traveled quite a bit, and we have moved a few times just within Canada, not outside. So we're familiar with, you know, packing and moving and trying something new. That didn't scare. But in this case, it's a completely different language, right?
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the language, I would say everything for us has been Pretty well. It's not much different than Canada. The climate and everything, we're used to everything here. For you coming from Houston, it's going to be more of a shock when you got 3 feet of snow outside, probably, right? So for us, it's fairly normal. So, yeah. No, it's been good.
Yeah.
So on that topic, what's some things that did shock you between here and there? Some things maybe you weren't aware of or you weren't prepared for? Or...
Yeah, I mean, the first time, well, elephant in the room, like the language is the toughest part for me as well. I had been learning. I can read it. I can write. Can understand basic phrases and can communicate at a very basic level. Like if I'm on the streets asking for bread, I can do that. So I can get by if I need to. But that was one of the biggest shocks, I think, for me, was the Russians are very intelligent. Their school system is impressive. They're my wife is I mean, pretty smart. The studies that they take on are very intense, and it's a lot more disciplined in how you will learn. Everyone is it's mandatory to learn multiple languages, or at least 2 languages. You can choose them.
But this is talking all the way through. This is the younger grades as well you're talking, or just like post-secondary?
Yeah, so all the way to I forget the exact, if there is a cutoff, but it's for the beginning stages of your school. You choose 2 languages that you can learn, and most kids will choose like German and Russian, or like some kind of second language. So most people would choose German or English or something of that nature. And I think just that importance of a better world education, or so that was definitely or a big difference for me, because everyone here, for the most part, all the kids I can talk to. I don't typically just strike up a random conversation with anyone on the street, but I can. Most kids have a pretty good understanding of English. But for me, the biggest difference was the priority on family. It's a bit of a shock. I think the mentality in America, or the States, I'll say, is more on like your career first, and then you can focus on kids later on down the road whenever everything is like settled. But that day of settling, who knows? That could be 38 or 48. And it's significantly harder to raise a kid when you're older. Especially when you throw in the fact that you're now this big hot shot in your career that now has to raise a child. I think the priorities are shifted. For me, the biggest focus in my life, I want to raise an awesome family and have a great support system around me to like build a comfortable environment for my kids. And yeah, career is important, but it shouldn't be the sole focus of what you do every day. It should be family, or religion first, family, then your career. And it's not the mentality that I would want, because it's going to get harder as I go. It's already hard enough and I'm not even that old. So I can only imagine waiting so long to have kids. And then it's like, cool. How old
are you?
Super excited.
If I may ask.
In 2 months, I'll be 28. So just a young'un. But
I was there once too. So.
Yeah. But it's important for me to have a priority on the family, and a lot of Russians here have that focus. Like, you'll go out to any park and there's dozens, or I mean even hundreds of people walking out with their kids as a family, and they're all together and they're present. They're not like, filming TikToks off in the corner and doing this stuff. They're all together, and it's just nice to see. I genuinely appreciate it here.
That's interesting, because we find that yes, in the park there's a lot of that. I've noticed that recently. Driving down the street, you see people that have all the time. They're just wandering around to spend time together, which we seem to be always go. No time for anything other than ourselves in America. But on the flip side, I do see a lot of older parents. Like, it seems like people wait until their mid-30s to have children, is what it looks like to us anyway. So you're thinking people are starting here younger.
Yeah, I think it's encouraged. I mean, you do have a lot more government assistance too. I don't know the entire structure, but you do have free education for kids, and you do get some kind of government assistance early on, where they'll give you money for housing, or you know, basic needs for the kid, like for the purpose of the child. And that goes all the way up, I want to say, till 3. And then once you get to 3, they'll even give you assistance for getting housing. I think your interest rate will be like 3.5% or 4% to get a property or an apartment or something, like a loan, for a low percentage. So there's a lot of things that they put in place that are just shocking to me, because it seems like the second you have a kid in the States, it's like, all right, good luck. I wish you the best.
Yeah, well, you guys start with a big bill already, right? The labor and delivery is already a big bill. So
yeah, and then you tack on all the checkups, and if you ever need like a one-off call or assistance, it's like everything has a pretty hefty price tag on it, and it's like, where are my tax dollars going?
Yeah, in Canada we do have free healthcare and things like that, but it from when we were young till now, there's less stuff that's paid for, basically. Right, as they run out of money and mismanage what they have, there's more and more things that the patient has to pay for out of pocket, and less services that are for free. And it just keeps changing. And the wait times are brutal. People brag about Canadian healthcare, but we sat there before with a screaming kid for 5-6 hours, and nobody even sees you yet. You're just sitting there waiting, and that's emergency room. Like that's
Oh yeah.
I know people who have had to book an appointment with their doctor. You'd have to book 3 weeks in advance. Well, if something's wrong today, you might be dead in 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, you don't usually.
It's nothing. It's a lot better here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you don't usually plan for an emergency weeks in advance. So that's
I don't know. Yeah, it's there's a lot of good systems here. I would love to maybe chat with a doctor or even an educator here sometime, because I've been told, we homeschool our children, but I've been told lots about the Russian education system, how excellent it is here compared to back home. The last time we had our kids in a government funded school in Canada, I mean, it didn't matter what time of day you went to that school, there's kids wandering around the hall. Like, nobody seemed to be in class actually learning anything. And the amount of people that I've heard graduate grade 12 that still can't read, obviously that's not the majority, but it happens. And that's a scary thought. Somebody pushed this kid through 12 years of education and they still can't read. That's not good. Right. Yeah, so, and I don't believe that happens here. These people seem very educated. So, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know the exact number. I want to say the literacy rate is like close to 97%, something in that it's got to be well over 90%. I mean, I can't say I've talked to one person that doesn't have a very good education on just like all topics. It's new to me. It's definitely new.
Do you, off the top of your head, do you know what the literacy rate is in America or not?
I want to say I want to say I looked it up. I don't, because the thing is, I don't know exactly how legitimate the source is, but I'd say it's about 70%, possibly something in that range.
Yeah, I have no idea what it would be for Canada, but yeah, interesting. The education system definitely seems to have declined. It doesn't seem to be enough focus on it, and that's your future, which is really scary, right? That's what's going to run your country 10, 15, 20 years from now. Yeah, interesting. So main reasons for moving then was just try something new.
Yeah. I mean, we just love the bread here. I think that was but I think a big reason for us was
Clip.
Yeah, Clip. There we go. So big reason for us, definitely the family aspect. For us, outside of that, it was like just the mentality. I mean, it's also a huge blessing to have family nearby. I mean, there's 6 family members within a 10-minute walk. The convenience is also extremely helpful. Having a grocery store in every single corner, I can walk to my gym 4 minutes away. Like, I had to drive 15 minutes in America or the States to even get really anywhere most times. And it's just different here. I think the convenience, and for the reasons that we want, which a lot of it is rooted in, again, family and just the support system, that was one of the biggest reasons. And then also like the safety aspect is getting out of hand in the States. So add that in with the beliefs of the West being pushed a little bit too hard right now. I think it's slowly shifting away from what I would want my child to be raised in.
You said that very delicately. Good job.
I'm trying, man. Because I've had my fair share of comments on my videos where I'll say it a little too boldly. So I'm trying to be a little nicer.
It's hard. Yeah, I know. try to keep, you know, personal opinions down. Well, I do voice mine quite a bit. There's certain things I can't tolerate. Pushed on my kids anyway. So yeah. Interesting. Any regrets? Any regrets on moving? You've been here not very long. It's hard to.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been enough times to where I have a very clear idea, a pretty clear idea of what to expect. I mean, for me, it's typically just going to be rooted in the fact that I'm not fluent in the language, which I think anyone would say if they move to a foreign country. It's extremely helpful to know the language, but I mean, you can still get exactly what you need in many cases. A little tougher to get like banking and all of your essentials set up, but once that's set up, you know, that would be, you know, smooth sailing at that point. But for me, it's mainly just the language aspect, which I'm now going to spend a considerable amount of time like really honing in on. But I can say very basic things to get the point across if needed.
Yeah. Actually, I feel for my language, I know nothing and I don't use it enough. But then I'm amazed. We've only been here 3 months and I knew nothing before coming. And now like I can actually understand some stuff, right? You get to the gas station or something and I have a rough idea what they're talking to me about. So there is progress being made and it's kind of exciting. Like, hey, I knew what she said. So yeah it grows. Yeah, being immersed in it, I think, has really helped because you don't have a choice. You know, if you leave your Google Translate in the car, you have to converse, right? So
yeah. I think the hard part, or the hard part for me too, is, and I think most people that are learning a language will say the same, is that just the ability to speak is trying to think of the word, like it's a little discouraging because you want to speak the same exact way that you would in English or in your native tongue, but you can't get a point across as well. So you almost feel for me, I definitely get a little self-conscious, like embarrassed that I'm not able to like comfortably say what I want to say. So I don't speak as much as I should. But for me, the biggest thing that I'm going to do moving forward is just making a fool out of myself. If I say the wrong, and that's the thing about the Russian language, is you can make a mistake very easily by just changing the way that you say a word, like putting more emphasis,
slightly different ending or something.
Yeah, and that can change the entire word entirely. So that's the tricky part about this language. You know, the grammar is another thing, but the elementary level of the language you can get by, but eventually it's like practice is the only way that you'll really get it across. And that's my biggest issue, is like I can study all day, but if I'm not speaking it, that's the area that I have the biggest weakness on.
Yep, same here. I could never sit in a desk and learn all that grammar. It's just going to have to come out. And so I figured I'll start with my basic words, and I'll sound like, you know, I'm three years old or whatever, but as long as I can get the point across, and then you slowly fill in more words, and then I think it'll kind of flow. I feel trapped, actually, a lot of things. So in day-to-day conversations with a gas station attendant, that's not a big deal. But when you're sitting across from a lawyer or a banker or a business partner, or, you know, trying to figure something out with the government, I feel really trapped. I feel like a 2-year-old who has thoughts but cannot express themselves. You know, they lay on the ground kicking and screaming. I haven't got to that point yet, but it's challenging. That's the hard part, I think, because you know how to do it in your head. You know how to, but you can't voice it. You know, and you're almost trapped. So I look forward to that being done, and being able to converse fluently. It'll be nice.
Yeah, that's the moment I dream for as well.
So that's probably your biggest piece of advice that you'd give to people considering the move, is learn the language, I'm guessing.
Well, that's one of it. Yeah, I'd say that's a really big piece of it. I mean, you're also more, you're well received in the country whenever you have the ability to speak their language, or at least make an attempt, right? I think everyone here is learning. It's Russian is one of the hardest languages to learn, so I think people are fairly understanding with the fact that it's going to take a while to really become comfortable with it. But apart from that, I mean, if I had to pinpoint it, maybe the visa aspect would be tricky for many people. I would like to think that their immigration laws are fairly strict here, so coming in just without any game plan would be tough. So having something set up in place prior to would be ideal, so that it makes the move a little easier, because like you can get a working visa or a golden visa or an investment visa Obviously, being married to someone helps a ton, but there's a few ways that can make the transition easier and a little bit less stressful than just coming and, you know, over time figuring out. There's people that can definitely help with that aspect, and I would say that's a big area that if you're coming to his country, especially like Russia, which has pretty strict laws in place to prevent people that are coming in illegally, then having that situated, at least somewhat, would be extremely helpful, versus like the Thailand or something where you can just keep getting extensions and without any clear like documentation of what your purpose is.
Okay. Georgia's pretty simple as well. I've told people that as well. We used it as a transition to going here. I'm actually very glad we did. We got our shocks out of the way, I guess, as far as city life and old Soviet stuff. And Georgia is significantly poorer. There's a lot of more rundown stuff there. So it was more shocking. And then we got here and everything's beautiful, right? So, but yeah, it's easy there. You can stay for a year at a time, whereas here the visa thing is definitely something else. It's not as easy as America where they can just walk across the border.
I know. Yeah, just let them in and pay for their housing, right?
Yeah, they get better service there than the American citizens do.
Yeah, it's tough.
So too early again, but do you ever consider moving back? You already said you'd go on holidays and stuff back, right? But
yeah, that's the bulk of it. I mean, right now it's even tough on that end because flights are astronomical. So that's we might have to figure out a way to tackle that, but that would likely be the main reason, or some unforeseen emergency or something. We have some, you know, cash laying around for that, but mainly, yeah, that's the bulk of how we would plan to visit. But other than that, it's like the more removed you are from the country, you see how interesting the views are, and like it's like I don't know, a monkey yelling at someone for something crazy. It's just, I don't know. It's a different world whenever you can finally remove yourself from the bubble a little and like see it from the outside. You're like, wow, that's interesting how they're running it over there. But that's really it. Just for holidays, see family. Nothing else outside of that.
Yeah, we always leave the possibility open, but I have no intentions of moving back. I mean, somebody asked me that, well, if politics gets changed over there, would you move back? I said, well, the why? I mean, if everything's good here and we're happy here and we're farming here, and why would I move back, I guess, right? So we're looking to the future, not the past, right? But yeah.
Exactly.
Unless things change here, of course, I guess. But right now, I feel this is 100 times better than it is over there. So
yeah,
a lot safer too. You have one child now, you said?
Yeah, we're planning on numero dos, so not sure when that'll happen, but we want to have another one pretty soon. Try to keep the age gap tight enough to where they're not, 5+ years apart. But yeah, that would be ideal. Get at least 2. Rooting for, fingers crossed, for a boy, but we'll see how.
I guess that means number one's a girl, eh?
Yeah.
Awesome. I think that's wise anyway. I think every family, every large group of kids needs an older sister to keep them in line. I think that works very well.
Yeah. Versus
my sons would attest to that. I think so.
Yeah. Versus a boy just setting a bad example early on.
a little bit wilder for sure. Yeah. Years and years ago, we were probably back when I was your age, I guess, we read a book one time and it was talking about the differences between boys and girls. And the girl would be at the bottom of the tree looking at it saying, yeah, it's probably not a good idea to climb up there. And the boy's already at the top of the tree looking down going, oh man, how am I going to get down? And it kind of showed a difference in perception on boys and girls. So I think it's wise to have an older sister. Start with a girl first and then have the rest. Yeah.
Definitely.
No plans for 10 kids though, eh?
Maybe one day we'll catch up to you guys.
We're not at 10. Yeah, we're still at 9. But
yeah. Not in the plans, but who knows? Maybe ask me 3 years from now. We've got plans for 15. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, we didn't start out with plans for that. We both said 5 or more when we met. But I never really thought about the fact that I might have 9 kids one day. So just take it one at a time. Don't rush. Okay, safety. When you're talking about kids anyway, it's a good one to have. Safety is super duper important. You feel safe wandering around down the streets, letting your kids, well, your daughter's too young yet, but I mean, far as you can tell? School system,
Yeah.
safety-wise, playgrounds, I don't know, the malls, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a pretty considerable amount of thought put into that. I mean, there's differences here. I think the biggest area that I've appreciated is the fact that there's a lot of schools and just a lot of security in place to make sure that not anybody can walk in without some kind of relationship to someone that works there, or key card, or, you know, like apartment complexes. You got to have a key card, or to get in. And then school, same thing. You got to call into the school and they'll let you in through the gate. So there's things like that that are genuinely appreciated. And there's like usually multiple doors that are locked that will prevent anybody from just walking in. Now, on the flip side, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. The driving aspect is definitely tricky here. So the guys here are pretty intense with the driving. And I'll be walking on the sidewalk, and it's, nothing like, they don't hop curbs, but they're handful of them are like driving like it's the last day they're ever going to drive, and they got to like make the most of it. So they'll run red lights every now and then, or when we're walking across, there are guys that'll try to make it at the last second, they'll just cut in front. So something that I've got to get used to is don't walk across the street the second it turns green, maybe wait a second or two. But other than that, I mean, the driving here is the biggest aware thing to be aware of. But everything else, I mean, we've walked out late nights plenty of times now, and never once been concerned.
No crime or gangs or drugs or all that stuff.
No, unless you're looking for it, but no.
People don't drive that aggressively in Houston, or what?
Well, I think they can't because there's traffic, so there's that. But
I see.
but there, I mean, there's definitely crazy drivers in Houston, and they have, if they get mad, they'll pull a gun and point it at you. And the thing is that there's no mental tests to get a gun, so anyone that has a beating heart for the most part can get one. So road rage in America seems to be ended in some kind of horrific finale, if you will. Like the other day I saw a video, and the guy just got mad that he cut him off and pulled a gun on him. So that's
wow.
So that's a bit different. There's a lot of mental examinations that have to come here. Like you have to get verified or pass those tests before you can get a gun, which is quite appreciated. But
even then, there's no handguns here, I don't think, is there?
I thought there was. I mean, I believe so. But
I'm sure they have them, but I didn't think you could have open carry here like you would in the States.
Oh, I don't think so.
Like it's only for shooting range or something. So
yeah. Which
less likely someone's going to pull one on you driving. We drove through the States for 3 months and with the motorhome, so we saw all sorts of interesting things. I'm glad nobody ever road raged on us as this clunky old motorhome drove around with them. But we only went through just the top corner of Texas on our way through. We were running behind. Motor blew in New Mexico, so we sat there for 3-4 weeks while we were getting fixed.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Takes fun out of a holiday.
Yeah, that'll do it. I mean, it's funny though, the two most talked about cities or states for the most part in like crime outside of Detroit and LA and New York. I've only been to New York, but every time I've been there, it's great to visit, for a couple days, but I could not imagine living there because it's just, I mean, you got to think though, millions of people stacked on top of each other. It'll drive anyone crazy, but it's just homeless people all over the street that'll get in your face for any one reason. And it's tough to want to live there and raise a family comfortably, I'll say. So I appreciate the difference here. It's just a lot more calm, like neutral environment, and you can walk around without any sort of, you don't have to be on guard that much. I mean, you are in another country, so I can't say you can walk around, with your shirt off and screaming and yelling, but as long as you're not acting, you're responsible.
You just behave normal, everything should be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How big is Yaroslavl?
About 500,000 people. I think it's 400 to 600, anywhere in that range.
Okay. Yeah. So Nizhny here is about 1.2, I believe. I don't know what I could compare it to in Canada, but I have seen zero, absolutely zero visible crime. And I've said this multiple times, so the viewers might be tired of it now, but I've only seen 2 guys that I suspected might have been homeless, and that was more due to odor than anything else. They stank really bad. Other than that, there's no tent cities, no homeless, no visible crime, no visible gangs. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I can think of a lot of smaller cities back home where you see it. It's everywhere now. There's tent cities and homeless people and drugs all over the place now. So that was one big change for us that I was glad to see here. And even Moscow, I got friends there. I've never spent any time there myself, but I got friends that have sent videos. I'm just amazed how clean it is. I mean, what is there, 15 million in Moscow or something? That's a big city. Yeah. And people walk late at night, no worries about crime. That was a big amazement for us. You said earlier about everything's close by in the city and you like that and you don't like to drive 15 minutes. We're the opposite. I do think I can understand why you like the conveniences of a city, but I prefer to drive a half an hour and just be out in the middle of nowhere. That's more our cup of tea. So I don't need to go to the gym. I just need to go to the barn and work.
Yeah, that's why you get a Dacia,
we're hoping
a country house.
And get out of the city. Well, we're hoping to stay out there permanently. We're looking at some land still, a few different options. Hopefully we can get something sorted out soon. Yeah.
There's definitely an appeal to the to the nature and being outside of the city. I completely get it. I'm more of a suburban guy, so I wouldn't really call it's a weird mix or middle. Usually I'm just outside of the city, but also not too far outside. So kind of a middle ground, if you will. Now, being that I'm in the city now for plenty of visits, I can definitely see the attraction to it. It's not the quietest, but it's also, for me, I don't know, I like the convenience a little bit more. I didn't really realize that I would appreciate it so much until you live somewhere long enough to where it's like the only option is to drive 20 minutes. So for convenience sake, like if I've got a couple minutes to go grab something real quick and my wife's out of the house, like I can just go pop over to the store real quick and be heading back in like 5 minutes, which is it's quite nice. So I don't know, maybe I am a city folk now. Who knows?
Maybe. Like I said to my wife multiple times, I could get used to it. I think there is a lot of convenience, but as far as raising a family, I find it hard. And that's because I've lived in the country my whole life, but there's nothing to do in the city. And people would say, well, that's crazy. You got all this sports stuff and all this stuff. But just to go outside and play in the yard like my kids do is hard in a lot of these small, especially if you live in an apartment building, right? At least in your own private yard, I suppose. It's just a different mentality. Yeah. I don't know if there's a right or a wrong to it. I'm talking like a 400-acre backyard, though.
Yeah. That I can see the appeal there. I can definitely see the appeal there.
You've lived in the city in the States as well. Do you think it's more convenient here or not?
Yeah, 1,000%. Like I think for one, the states are built on, the infrastructure is built to you have to have a car unless you're in New York or maybe like another very, very urban city. You're definitely going to pay a ton for it, but you can live there. But even then, you're still walking all over the place and going through the subways, and hopefully you don't get an interaction with someone. Here, it's just nice because the convenience is extremely high. I mean, there's a pharmacy, there's a grocery store, there's a gym, there's supplement store, there's everything that you would possibly need. There's a vet clinic, all within the same building. I can get my contacts, my glasses, any medicine that we need, all in the same building, like 2 minutes away from us. And in America, I mean, all of that's going to be spread out. Maybe you're lucky and you live next to a grocery store, but it's not, the thought isn't put in place where it's like a grocery store every single within a walkable distance.
So you would have more large stores and less small stores.
Oh yeah.
In the States.
It's not very common to have a ton of like small grocery stores to get all of your essentials. You're typically going to have to walk a good ways if you live in the city to go to, and you'll get it all there, but the thought process isn't in place. It's like maybe 5 big grocery stores within a 10 or 20 mile radius versus like 100 within a 5 mile radius.
Interesting. Yeah, so I've never lived in a city in the West. I just assume cities are cities. They're all the same. So things are a lot closer. And then public transportation, like you're saying, walking over there. So they have more buses and taxis and things here than they would back home, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't take public transportation too much. We're lucky enough to live in a decent area where everything we need is right here. I'm sure that's across the board for most cities in Russia and in Europe as well. But public transportation is abundant. I mean, there's usually a bus coming in every 3 to 5 minutes, if not sooner. And then there's like individual taxis, or their Yandex taxi, which is like Uber. And then you've got, I forget the name. There's electric buses, just standard buses. And then there's like smaller vans for like quicker transportation. It'll bring you directly to your stop versus going to each individual bus stop. So there's a plethora of ways to get around from place to place. And I mean, it's extremely convenient. You could, I mean, my wife's grandma has lived here her whole life and never had a car. Like no one here has a car. I mean, her dad does, my wife's dad, but they have a country house. So it's kind of like essential to have one in this case, but you could absolutely live in the city without ever owning a car if you want.
Crazy, eh? It's unthinkable for us, well, especially where we lived. I mean, within 5 minutes we had a store, but it's only open X amount of hours, and then it's closed. And it had hardware in there, and some, you could buy some bread and some milk and things like that. It's just a general hardware store, I guess. After that, we'd have to drive 20 minutes to the closest grocery store, which is still a very small store, and 2 hours to the nearest city where you would have, your larger amenities and stuff. That's where we lived. It was pretty remote. So to not have a car, you could probably get a taxi on the island. I think there's taxis, but there's no public buses or trains or none of that kind of stuff. You'd hitchhike or drive a car. So yeah, when we're 16, you get your driver's license as fast as you can and get a car, and that's when you get around. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, you definitely get a weird look if you're. I don't know if anyone. I've probably seen 2 people walking the highway in the States, probably for a reason that was outside of them just not having a car. Something else happened, but you'd be crazy to walk anywhere in the States unless you're like dead center in the city, maybe. But even then, it's still very hard to get around. So yeah, it's a different world. I think I forget where I saw it, but there was a picture of public transportation available in the States versus Europe and like Russia and just outside of the States. And it's abundant. There's maybe a handful of major train lines through the US, like primarily in the West, maybe a little bit in the Northeast, of course, New York. But outside of that, it's very hard to get around even with the train. But here, I mean, you can take a train to Moscow, and then obviously St. Petersburg, really any major city that you want. And then they have got the speed train going from Moscow to St. Petersburg, which takes like 4 hours. So we could genuinely go to, if you haven't been to St. Petersburg, or if you have it on your list, I would definitely recommend it. But being able to go there overnight is awesome. Like you could go, and that's just like unthinkable for me, because I'm so used to getting planes or taking a 2-day trip out to a place that's extremely far away, and you could do that overnight here. And that's just
we still have that problem because like hotels, I got a huge family, so I have to book like 3 hotel rooms, right? So it's not convenient for us to travel anywhere anyway. And that's why when we bought the van, now we can all fit in there. That really opened things up. For now we can go exploring, but otherwise, even taxis, I got to book 3 taxis to go try to get her across town, right? I haven't tried getting everybody into a public bus or nothing like that here. We did it in Georgia. That was new for us. I've never done anything like that. Okay, the door opens up. Okay, quick. Try to not lose a kid. Get in the bus. But yeah, it was new. We're so used to being independent. Just get in the car whenever you want and drive wherever you want. It's a little different. I had a friend of mine in Moscow was telling me that, oh, you don't need a car here. I'm like, don't need a car. Of course I need a car. It's the first thing I need getting off the plane. No. He's never had one either. Yeah. Interesting. Different world. Hey, I see the time here. You need to get going soon. Where do you think Russia is going to be in the next 5-10 years? Economically, spiritually, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely think that the whole situation that's going on, like the sanctions, actually helped them quite a bit. Now they've got all the factories turning up again. Like some factories that they had shut down for years, like tire factories, are booting up again. They're making a lot of their own products now, and they're becoming very self-sufficient. So I think that's a very good thing for the long-term prosperity of Russia. As far as 5 years from now, no clue, but I just see it going in the right direction, economically for sure. As far as spiritually, I would like to think that because they're so rooted in their religious beliefs and they have a very core set of principles that they live by, the other countries that don't have I would say a firm grasp, or they're very open where anybody can open up a church if they want. I think long term that can cause some challenges in the West, whereas Russia will start to slowly differentiate themselves more and more because they have this like core set of values that they believe in. So as far as what the future looks like, not entirely sure, but I would like to think that Russia will definitely separate itself from most of the world because they are one of the few countries left that still has like their core beliefs, that if you want to raise a traditional family, you can go to, and you have a nice traditional way of living.
Yeah, makes sense. But yeah, the future is always hard to see, right? You never know. It looks like it's going to be good.
If I can make one comment, whoever's in can make movies out here, I would love to see more amazing movies in this, because they typically dub the American movies here. So that's the one area that I would love to see more of. I know that there's going to be a handful of talent coming from other countries coming in here, and that will likely become more of a possibility, but that would be amazing to see too, if they can make some amazing, movies and TV shows. I mean, I'm getting into this space, so I'm learning more about it, but that would be great too, to see their own like hit TV show or hit movie that everyone in the world knows of.
Yep. Yeah. And I think actually it's very important as far as educating people, right? Hollywood has almost a monopoly on the market, and they pump out a lot of pro-America stuff, right? So as kids, we watch movies, and that's where we get this negative impression of Russia from, which is not true. I mean, I've been here long enough now to see that everything that I was told was wrong. So I think it's actually vital for the somebody in Russia here to start pushing that out, to teach the truth and educate the world, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see that. They don't have a film industry at all. They must have something here.
Well, it's not like they don't. I know they do. They have their major, I want to say SDS is like one of their major media networks, and they have some good shows from that, some good movies. One of my favorite movies is Yolki, and it's like a Christmas movie. I love it. Then there's like a handful of them, but they don't make many. When I was learning the language for the first time, movies is like your best friend. So I was watching a ton of them, but I realized a lot of them are back in the USSR days, and they don't have a lot of modern options available. So I would love to see that become not a priority, but like it would be great to see more of, again, like you mentioned, just to be able to maybe just give a different perspective on how it is here versus just America always making Russia the bad guy in every movie. It's like always Igor.
It's predictable, right? So,
yeah.
Do you have a YouTube channel now or anything?
I do. It's just my first and last name as you see it.
Okay, so people should go over there. You got a lot of videos up there already, or?
Sorta. I mean, I don't post all the time. I post whenever an idea, like maybe a topic comes up that I want to shed some light on, but I post when I can, anything that seems relevant or helpful. It's more for me, if anything, to like just document our journey through life, so I could show my kids what I was doing when I was 27, 28. So, that's the main purpose. But yeah, I've got a couple videos up, would love to work with other people and exchange feedback and let's, grow together.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, everybody go over to Eric's channel then, if you got time, and give him a thumbs up and a subscribe. It's been great you chatting with us today. Appreciate it. Maybe we'll do it again sometime. All right. Yeah. Well, you have a great day. It's great talking to you. And like I said, we'll do it again sometime maybe.
All right. Sounds good, Aaron. Take care.
Yeah, you do. God bless you.